Hello, World of Tank Blizzards. It's a Littlefinger. Hey, my last two videos have been pretty pessimistic, talking about matchmaking and the brokenness within the game as it stands right now. And part of that is because every good name is taken. Fellow YouTuber reached out to me and asked me to start populating this spreadsheet that he put together. I'll go over it real quick. Basically, I had to complete 250 battles. You can see they're all lined up here. Put the date, put the map, whether or not it was supremacy encounter, whether we won, lost, or tied, the tank class, whether I was top or bottom tier, and then fill out the averages for the green team, for the win rate, and then the averages for damage. Now, I took it a little step further, and then I started to put in how many survived on the green and how many survived on red, and looked at what our differences were as far as win rate and average damage. And so he had this spreadsheet here, and you can see that I was fairly fortunate here as far as my green average win rate, 51.68, was higher than the red average, which was right at 50%. But what I did was I took a quick look at that and I said, all right, here, if I've got six 50%ers and I put myself in there at 61, it raises me up to 51.68. So since I was typically, one of the higher win rates on the team, I figured that is why that those balanced out the way they did. Um, Not getting into whether that's right or wrong. So you can see here slightly more supremacy battles. I won 163 or 65% of these tier 8 matches. You can see I played the tank destroyer the most, followed by heavies, mediums, and then lights, and I was top tier 57% of the time. Now, my biggest rage has been the fact that these games are so lopsided. So I went through here and basically put down uh, the number of survivors on the winning team versus survivors on the losing team. Yes, in some of the supremacy games, obviously you finish with a timer, so you might have three or even here five guys still alive versus one. So not everyone was killed in that battle. But as we scroll on down here, all right. So the number of battles that I had was 27, in which 7 people survived either on green or red. 10.8% of the time. All right. These are lopsided games, in my opinion. If there's 5, 6, or 7 people still alive on the enemy or your team, it is a lopsided game. And so look at this, 18%, 21%. If we add these together, we're at 50%. Half of your battles, guys, are finishing 5-0. Complete lopsided. We start getting into a little bit more competitive games if we have 4 or 3 remaining. But that is an additional, 35%, taking us up to 85, which means that we only have 15% of our games out of 15%. That's nothing in which there's actually a competitive game played. So that is my biggest complaint, right? Is I want these numbers to be reversed. I want more games down here where we only have 1 or 2 people alive. Um, so what I did, and this was kind of interesting, I basically took the differential between the win rates and the damage, and I made my own projected outcome here. And I looked at this and I said, all right, we've got a 6% advantage and a high damage percentage. We're going to win this game. Um, Here's one where we had a slight win rate differential, but we had 170 difference in damage. I predicted we would lose that. And then what I did, if I unhide these, is I compared it to the actual results and made a true false statement. If they were both the same, win-win, it was true. If I got it wrong, it was false. And so as we scroll down here to the bottom, we'll show you how well I was able to predict. So my prediction was that I should have won 169 battles when I only won 163. But when we're talking percentage-wise, 2%, that's nothing, right? So I was pretty well able to predict the outcome of all of my games. But how did that match up with the actual results. Well, 185 times I got it right based upon just looking at two numbers, the average win rate and the average damage. 74% of the time, guys, when you hit that battle button, I could tell you if it's a win or a loss. To me, that just goes to show you that, if you play to your normal standards on an average basis over a long period of time, three out of every four game is already determined by matchmaking. So, what's next? Um, well, what I decided then I would do was look at the absolute win rate, because sometimes you would have a negative or a positive, and I would filter this and compare it to the number of survivors to see if there was a way that if we had matchmaking, say, I will never start a game in which there's a differential of 5% win rate. I will keep looking for players to group together so that our win rate is less than 5% or our average damage is less than 200 difference, something like that, to see if there was any sort of win rate statistic component that could be put into matchmaking, because as we know, matchmaking only looks at tanks, doesn't look at win rates, to try to balance it out and try to cut down on the number of lopsided battles. Again, 50% of our battles finish with 5, 6, or 7 people still alive on one of the teams. But it's so interesting, just looking at win rate differential. So if there's only 1% difference in our win rates, 4.46 was the average survival rate. Now you would expect this number to go up the higher we allow our differences in win rates to go, but this number stays very much constant across the board. So win rate alone doesn't impact the lopsidedness of the battles. What about the difference in damage? This one does tend to have a little bit of a trend, but it's not a lot. So if I only looked at battles in which there was 100 differential between the two teams, the average survivors was 4.1. Now in games where there was up to 500, 4.4. So really not a lot of difference. So I decided, well, could we look at both of these together? And you do start to see a dramatic increase, but to get your win rate differential to be 0.5% difference and the damage to be 50 difference is asking way too much. And yes, I agree. If you were to ask Matchmaker to come up with that every time, you would have to wait a very long time to get into battles. And so I think what I've found, my determination as to why that Wargaming doesn't use win rates or damage as part of their matchmaking, is that it really doesn't change the lopsidedness or outcome of the game. So this was a little bit of an eye-opener. I would really love some statisticians to be able to dive a little bit deeper into this. But I guess what I think happens is once you have one or two tanks fall early in a game, it's just a domino effect, and it's just so hard to overcome that. Therefore, there's not a lot of competitive games. So, I'm feeling a little bit better about matchmaking now. Doesn't alleviate the fact that, it is frustrating as hell to go out there and half of your times know you're going to be in a lopsided battle. So, I've preached different ways on trying to have fun with the game, and that's what I'm going to do right now. I am just playing, getting my goals done for each day, and that's it. I'm not playing any more than that. So we'll see how. Keep sending in your videos to Discord, guys, and I'll start putting together some more dumb ways to dies and some of your Ace Mastery games. But I'm not going to be doing any tank reviews for a while. Probably maybe I'll take this month off. But we are going to keep putting videos out there, so don't worry about that. I'm not stopping the game. But For now, would love to hear your thoughts on these statistics and have fun, guys. Stay safe, get educated, not fingered. Littlefinger out.